Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale. So quite a few things went down in this episode, so let's kind of break everything down. First of all, let's focus on the Betty and Jughead investigation, because it turns out, hey, Dilton died last episode. Didn't see that coming. I saw Ben was okay, I guess I just assumed Dilton was too, but it's nope. That was crazy. So I even Dr. Kurd kind of saying the lines of, like I said, because this season's kind of got this even spookier element to it, especially when he said the lines of this is even darker than what happened to Jason, even darker than what the Black Hood did. This is the face of true evil, because it's is this a murder investigation? Did they commit suicide? There's no telling at that point in time. But then later on, you find out there's so much more to this. It isn't just Dilton and Ben that were playing it. Ethel was playing it too, because Ethel's oh, Ben's my boyfriend, and it's we were dating over the summer and stuff like that. It's okay. But then it turns out that was all part of the game, that they weren't dating in real life. And it's wait, what? This underground bunker that Dilton had, but that's just because Dilton was Dilton. But there's even a part of the game where it's pick the chalice that isn't poisoned, and if you don't, you win. But it seems like both of them were poisoned, because it's actually cyanide that was in those cups. So it's okay, so did they willingly take cyanide? Because it seemed like Dilton didn't want to, but it seems later on that Ben's no, I wanted to. Dilton was afraid to take those steps. So was he forced to drink it or not? I mean, the position that he was in, it almost seemed like he willingly did it, but at the same time, he still could have been forced to do it and, took on that. But I don't know. Because it seemed like Ben just didn't drink enough to do it. It's hard to say, what's going on in this situation of, because it seems like for all of them, the world between the game and the real world are blending together. This game was just a game to start, but then, it's it became real. Because even Jughead and Betty ran into, the Gargoyle King out in the woods, but it's that was too tall to be Ethel, was that someone dressed up? Could it easily just been a puppet that someone was moving? Someone had set up and they just had it moving from nearby. I have no idea what that was all about. Because there's a lot going on in that. Because for one, it's there's this new girl at school, Evelyn, who is Edgar, who runs the farm. That's his daughter, and the way she was talking to Betty too, being oh yeah, I'll keep it secret what happened to you last night. She's what are you talking about? It's the whole seizure thing. And it's okay. It's almost like she was holding that over Betty's head to a certain extent. Then later on, when Ethel was talking about oh, he'll get very angry if we talk to any grown-ups about it, because it's that's why what happened to Dilton did happen to a certain degree, because it's Dilton got in trouble because he went to Jughead. Because that's also another thing too, Jughead's taking on his responsibility because he feels responsible, because Dilton came to him. It's I owe him something. I guess because he was so caught up with everything with Archie at the time, he didn't listen. He wasn't there to kind of listen to Dilton, and now this happened. So maybe on some level, maybe Jughead feels he could have stopped this or prevented it or helped him in some shape or form. So, but then Ethel has a seizure. I'm no, is she faking it? But I'm no, she isn't. Apparently not. So, and then Evelyn just happens to be nearby. It's that's a little coincidental. So my brain starts going you don't think this is all connected? The farm stuff and the Gargoyle King stuff. What if that's actually all connected? Or are they two separate things? I don't know. I assume they were two separate things, but now I'm thinking maybe they are. Because there's definitely something sinister with the farm stuff too, what Betty saw last episode, but now it's kind of oh, that might have been hallucinations, because apparently she's getting these seizures because of stress. She didn't tell Jughead initially because she was embarrassed by it, but Jug's oh man, here I am bringing you out here looking into a double murder, potential suicide, and she's honestly, this is probably the least stressful part of my life, because it's yeah, that's what they do. They investigate stuff. It's actually become her new normal, and she likes it, because it's that's investigating is what brought them together initially. So, because this takes an even stranger turn when we find out that a lot of people are connected to this, parents and stuff, Keller, McCoy, Fred, Hiram, Penelope, Fred, Alice, and then Hermione herself too. It's all of them have some connection to something that they buried years ago, and it's now it's coming after our kids, something we promised we'd never talk about. So it seemed like this might be like one of those buried bodies type of thing, like something they did in the past, like they might have accidentally killed someone and they promised never to speak about it. Maybe this game is something that, like, they played this game with someone that died years ago, and that maybe this whole twisted thing is about, kind of revenge in that regard. Like maybe the child or sibling of someone they might have potentially killed in the past has come back to get revenge. Like, who knows, maybe it has something to do with the farm, because maybe that's why Polly was brought in, to bring in Alice, to bring in Betty. Like I said, that's if those are connected. I still don't know. This episode made me think in that direction, but we'll have to still wait to see, because like I have no idea what that's all about. Because even mentioning like, oh, their lips were blue and everything, so like it has to be that they played this game and things got dark and scary and serious years ago. Because, like, why else would you keep this secret? Like, all of them. Because even Hermione said it herself. It's like, some of us are friends, other of us are enemies, but we kind of have to come together in all of this. It makes you wonder, was anyone else connected to this? Like Cliff, for example. Just because Penelope's there, what about Fred? Like, like Archie's mom, Mary, might not be involved in this. They're the ones who grew up in Riverdale, so I think that's why it matters. Why specifically this group. So like I said, murder is the only thing I can think of that would be so terrible that they did, or at the very least kind of a similar thing to Ben and Dilton. Like, they got too serious with the game and someone died, not because they killed him, but kind of indirectly, because it's like, oh, we took this game too seriously and it turned into something very dark. I don't know. That's initially my initial thoughts, but we'll have to wait and see where everything goes from there. Because they're even worried about it, because it's like eventually, because it's like Jughead is investigating this and Betty, and they're not quick to give up on these investigations and stuff like that. Which is so interesting. This is all happening while Alice is trying to put her past behind her. She made such a point to do that. And I guess that's even more reason why she's doing that, because she has so many dark secrets and they're just finally weighing down on her. Plus everything they went through. The Cooper family in general. So we'll see. I feel like this would kind of contradict with what Alice is trying to do now, but I guess it's such a bad secret that it's like, no. No matter how much I try and forget, I can't forget it yet, especially if my daughter's potentially getting mixed up in whatever I did or got mixed up in years ago. So it's interesting, especially considering the fact is on some level, Betty is following in her footsteps, rolling with the serpents and stuff like that. Alice used to be a part of that world too. So it's just kind of interesting when you think about it. Like I said, this is pushing the cult like angle even more further, potentially on two fronts. Like I said, if they're all connected. So, but what's also interesting, kind of a little side note in the episode, I think, is kind of the whole Kevin and Moose situation. Moose's dad is now like the RROTC teacher, and because of that, he's kind of less reluctant to kind of continue the relationship he has with Kevin, in the sense like Moose is. Because even Kevin's asking, like, are you ashamed of me or something? He's like, no, I'm with the boys. So it's like that situation. Because, Moose has kind of kept that from everybody, that whole situation. Like, that he might be gay, or at the very least bi, which, I guess maybe he's afraid of his dad finding out, or just people in general. Because it's like, oh, no, I'm with the boys, so we can't do any of that. My dad's around, we can't do any of that. Like, even though we were together all summer, that doesn't mean anything, which I'm saying, it was just interesting considering all the summer flings that were like going on. And now it's kind of like, oh, we're back to school. So let's simmer all that down. So, but we do have Kevin joining the RROTC. I'm curious to see, is that because it's like, are you ashamed of me because I'm not a part of that world, or just what's between us in general? Are you ashamed of that? So I'm guessing Kevin's trying to discipline himself, or, use this as an excuse to be around Moose, because it's like, oh, you won't make time to be with me, you don't want to be with me? Well, I kind of won't leave you much choice, because we're going to be together. Like, you're going to see me every day, so you can't just avoid me. You won't have much of a choice. So we'll kind of see where that ends up going, because I thought that was kind of a very interesting thing. It's kind of heartbreaking, because it's like, something's between us, but you don't want to acknowledge it. Like, I don't know why. I mean, like I said, Kevin probably can guess and understand why, but still, that's not good enough. I mean, in my opinion, that's not good enough. Because obviously, like, Moose must care for Kevin, like Kevin cares for him. So it's kind of like, yo, kind of, I don't know. Like, we'll see what ends up happening with all of that. That's one thing, part of this episode. The other side of it is Archie and Juvie, his new roommate, Mad Dog. I didn't expect that storyline to turn out the way it did. Really quickly, I think it's just kind of an interesting detail. The cell that Archie's in is 302, and that's what episode this is. Season 3, episode 2, which is interesting. I wonder if I need to pay more attention to that. Do shows do that a lot more than I realize? Like, I wonder, like, I'm looking for it now. Are shows doing that just to be like certain specific numbers and stuff like that? Like, I wonder if you go back, could you literally find the episode number in every episode of Riverdale? It's probably like this one episode. Maybe it was just like a huge coincidence. I don't know. Either way, nevertheless, his cellmate Mad Dog tried to warn him, like, hey man, you don't want to be wearing those shoes. You keep your shoes tied tight. Well, that advice he should have listened to, because ghoulies beat the crap out of him. Because they're ghoulies that got arrested last episode because of Archie calling in the cops because of that race. Interestingly enough, he doesn't roll with the serpents, who, another interesting element, Joaquin is there. Didn't expect that. And Archie doesn't roll with them because it would mean shivving a ghoulie. Now, he knows the serpents and the ghoulies don't get along, especially after what the ghoulies and Penny did to Jughead last season. Okay, but it's like, Archie's like, that's not him. Especially because he almost came so close working for Hiram to go down that path. He's not about to go down that path, It's like, he's made those mistakes before. He's not walking down that path anymore. Which is interesting, because it seems like that might be potentially where things might go for Archie unintentionally. Because there's this whole thing I like that was kind of part of this episode too, where it's like there's the whole back and forth between Cheryl and Veronica. And because Veronica wants to become the student body president, but it's not because she really cares about it. It's just she wants to hold a position until Archie gets back. Because for her, she wants everything to be just the way it was when Archie comes back. Because it's just like, oh yeah, it's like almost like you were never gone. Everything's better. That's Veronica's thought. So that's why she has such a problem with Cheryl, because she personally doesn't care about the position. So if it wasn't for Archie, she'd be like, fine, take it, do whatever you want to. But just for Archie's sake of wanting to try and keep things as normal as possible, she won't. But, Cheryl, being who she is, kind of doesn't handle things the right way. She could have handled things, but Cheryl handles things her way, where she's basically like, I need it looked good on my college resume, but it's like, it's not like Archie could use it. And it's just kind of, you didn't have to say it like that. It's kind of a dick way to, like, say that. You could have just, like I said, but Cheryl does things her way. But basically, Cheryl does inspire Veronica to run a chapter of the Innocence Project in Riverdale, getting an endorsement from her mom as mayor. But her mom initially was like, I don't want to get in the middle between, I already told you I don't want to get in the middle of a fight between you and your dad. It's like, hey, the fact of the matter is, this is me coming to you as a citizen, and that you could use that as kind of the excuse behind it and everything. But I'm sure there's still potentially will be hell to pay on some level. I mean, maybe Hiram will look at it as it being okay, because it's like, hey, we can keep up these pretenses of everything working out, or letting Veronica get her way. I don't know, the way he is now, it's like, I don't think he's all about letting Veronica get her way. So it's kind of like, especially if it means helping out Archie in some shape or form. Like, I thought that whole scene with them doing the whole Jailhouse Rock thing was pretty sick. Her and the Vixens, that was pretty nice. And then there's also, like, Archie kind of keeping up, because it's interesting, because Mad Dog was trying to tell Archie this of like, don't let who you are go. Because at first he was initially being like, you have to be an animal, because that's the only way you're going to survive in this place, is to be an animal. Because if you're not an animal, you're going to die like an animal. But Archie wouldn't give up on who he is, so he decides that he's going to do things in there. Like, yeah, like he probably wears his shoes, and he tells everyone, he tells the ghoulies, he tells the serpents, like, they expect us to be animals, to be monsters. This is what they expect us to be. Let's show them that we're not. Like, if we weren't here, we'd be in high school, we'd be joining clubs, we'd be making friends and stuff like that. Like, let's not lose ourselves in here. And so he started a football game. Even Mad Dog had his back about it. Cause we ended up learning on later on about Mad Dog in a sense of like he had a girl, he had a sibling, had a mom, but the warden told him to not. I was like, oh, you don't get to, they don't get to see you anymore. It's for your own good. And then that was 2 years ago, which we know is the exact amount of time Archie's supposed to be in here, interestingly enough. And then, soon Mad Dog will go to prison for 20 years. Granted, we don't know what Mad Dog did specifically, so. Cause no matter what the circumstances are, I mean, because that could always be the like the turnabout. Because like Archie's only supposed to be in there for 2 years for what he did. Not unless they try and screw him over by like forcing situations to kind of eventually extend his time or make it much more severe, which isn't out of the question considering Hiram is literally buddies with the warden. It's like, and Veronica got pissed about it because she's like, okay, I get it. Literally everyone is in your pocket. Because it's like Hiram showing up there to be just a douchebag about it. I'm like, okay. Like, I thought you were going to go talk to the warden. It's like, no, he came to see the show because the whole football game and everything was an excuse to make a riot happen and then, like, beat down everybody. Also, Archie landed in some good punches like, yo, look at Archie, which I'm sure that's going to come back to bite him in the ass in some shape or form. I mean, especially because Archie was trying to do a good thing. He was trying to prevent everyone from just being animals, but it's like the moment he tried to do that, the warden beats him and everyone else down. It's like, no, this is the animals that you're meant to be. It's like, why are you doing that to them? Like, each one of them is in their own here. Like, there was even that one ghoulie that was like, oh yeah, he dropped out in the fourth grade, started selling drugs to take care of his nan, essentially. But everyone's kind of in there for their different situations, and it's like, is this more so against everyone or is this more so against Archie? And it's kind of hard to say. Like, I guess it's kind of like, hey, screwing over everyone else is kind of a bonus, but the main objective is to kind of beat Archie down and like to break him. That's what Hiram's whole point is, I assume. Which is why that whole thing with like Hiram and Fred having to be in the same room along with FP and Keller, considering what they're trying to do, freeing Archie and stuff like that. But they also have this whole secret pack thing that they're connected to. It leaves you a little conflicted because you got to keep the past hidden with an enemy, a person that you hate, especially in Fred's case, because it's like, you set my son up and sent him away. I hate you. So very conflicting situation. But then they made the excuse that Mad Dog died in prison. Then in the riot that Archie calls, even though we know he didn't, and also know that, Mad Dog wasn't there. So it's like, Mad Dog did say he was going to get sent away. So it's just like, was that just him being sent away, or did the warden legitimately kill him? Was it because he felt like, I don't know, did he feel like, because it seemed like the moment he saw Archie on the field knocking out some of his guards, that's when he was like, oh yeah, you've been tapped, meaning that like you're kind of mine now, kind of my right-hand man to do whatever I want. What that means exactly, we don't know. Because even Mad Dog was like, don't get tapped, don't let them kind of change you. Because like all the books and benefits that he got were because of the warden and stuff like that. So essentially like Archie's taking that Mad Dog approach to being forced to in that situation. So we still don't know what that means exactly, but we'll probably find out soon enough. And what that means for Archie, Veronica was kicked off the do not visit list, but she comes in with a disguise and a fake ID, and now she can. So she's coming in as part of the Innocence Project. So this is secretly being attacked from a different front. Like I said, that depends on whether Hiram finds out about that, because he might shut that down immediately. But that might be something like Hermione might keep off the record. Like, she might let that slide and let Hiram know. But if he finds out that she kept it from him and what that's all about, might be super pissed, So, like I said, it is a crazy, crazy episode. I have no idea like what this is all going to turn out to be, but I'm very interested to find out what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.